Campaign that just ended, and it centers around your friend, Sarah Palin. There were several leaks this week from the McCain campaign that Palin didn't know that Africa was a continent. She thought it was a country, that she didn't know what countries were involved in the North American Free Trade Agreement. And here is how, let's put it out, we'll put up how Palin fired back. Here it is.
That's cruel, it's mean-spirited, it's immature, it's unprofessional, and those guys are jerks if they came away with it, taking things out of context and then tried to spread something on national news that's not fair and not right.
Bill, you have sources in the Palin camp. What's the truth to all this?
Well, I have sources in the McCain camp, it was one camp, you know, and
well,
these were McCain staffers. Yeah, but these were McCain staffers who worked for Palin. A couple of them, unfortunately, behaved like jerks after the election and thought they could help themselves by telling Newsweek, without, of course, always on background, not a single person has stepped forward with a name, you know, to say anything negative about Palin, but on background, these stories. I've talked to Steve Biegun, who was a very well-respected Washington foreign policy hand. Never met Sarah Palin until they asked him to go work for her for the 2 months. He was there at these briefings, and he's told me the truth about them. And these stories have so little resemblance to reality that they're purely malicious and really false. And frankly, reporters shouldn't print this kind of stuff unless they can get corroboration. And in this case, they could have called Steve Biegun, who was in the room. They could have called others. They didn't. So I think it's fading.
What is the truth about Africa or about NAFTA?
The truth about NAFTA is she had a long day of briefings. She went through NAFTA, CAFTA. There was a lot of stuff going on. At the end, if there'd been distractions and stuff, she said, let's just go through it one more time. Now, what's the relationship of NAFTA? Which countries are in CAFTA? That's the Central American Free Trade Agreement. I couldn't tell you which countries are in it. Which countries do we have free trade agreements with in Latin America? Is it Chile? Perfectly sensible question at the end of a long day, just to get it clarified. And that makes it seem as if she doesn't know, like, what's North America. The Africa comment was she was doing, apparently Steve Schmidt was firing her giving her rapid fire questions and sort of debate prep. And she had actually gone through a long discussion with Biegun and others about Bush's Africa policy, the AIDS policy, what was happening in the Congo, all of this. And she began the answer by saying something like, you know, it was a kind of practice thing, and they asked her the question. And she said, look, Africa's a country with a lot of problems. It was a slip of the tongue, you know. And then she went on to discuss what was happening in Africa. This does not mean that she doesn't understand that Africa is a continent, not a country. So that tells you something about just the petty maliciousness, unfortunately, of a few staffers speaking on background. Senator McCain, I'm told, called up Thursday from Arizona to his senior staff and said, stop it, cut it out. This is totally outrageous. Nicole Wallace went on TV Friday morning and said, it's over. We all like Sarah Palin. And I think they've tried to end it.
And why was this happening?
I don't know.
I can tell you, because there are a lot of people right now in the midst of a loss want to avoid blame, and they have political careers coming. But you know, let me just say this: as someone who thinks Sarah Palin was inexperienced, and you know, it's not a matter of Sarah Palin not being smart and capable. You can learn that stuff, and she wasn't on the national stage, and that's why she might not have been familiar with that stuff up front. But just speaking, you know, in terms of defending a woman, gosh, I would think that feminists all over the country would be up in arms about the way Sarah Palin is being treated.
All right, we're going to leave it there with Juan Williams' defense of Sarah Palin.